Ms. Cuttridge, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in giving testimony?
I do.
All righty, and I probably butchered that name as I looked up. I pronounced the same one that you just did, Miss Golden, and I looked up and I'm like, is that the way it's pronounced?
That's
Okay.
correct. It's correct.
Cuttridge? Cuttridge? Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right, please proceed, Miss Golden.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Cottridge, where are you employed?
I'm a foster care supervisor at Bethany Christian Services.
And you supervise Samantha Hanson, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and you've reviewed the report and talked to Ms. Hanson, so you're prepared to testify today?
Yes.
And she authored a report of 12/1/2023 with the parent agency treatment plans, is that correct?
That is correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask that be marked as Exhibit 1 and move for its admission.
That is so marked and entered into evidence at this time without objection.
Ms. Cottridge, she also has a court addendum. The date of that report is January 16th, 2024, is that correct?
That is correct.
Your Honor, it has to be marked as Exhibit 2 and move for its admission.
Well, that'll be so marked. I'm not moving anything into evidence until I hear objections. I forgot that.
Thank
Got
you.
two other attorneys that get input. I was just going to let you list everything.
All right, and then thank you, Your Honor. And finally, the third exhibit are 3 forensic fluid laboratories for Ms. Clark. 929 is the collection, 1121 is the collection, and 12/7 is the collection of 2023 for those 3 tests as Exhibit 3.
Okay. All right. Any objection? Good grief. Any objection, Ms. Benedict?
No, did you get the email with the reports, Your Honor?
Yes, that's why
Okay.
I'm off the Zoom screen. I'm looking at the reports themselves. That's
Okay.
why. A little
Thank
bit.
you.
All right, no problem. That's why I was
No
like,
objection.
thank you, Mr. Kosoric. I was like, who's next? I can't remember who was on the screen while I'm looking at the exhibits. I'm sorry, I'm a troglodyte. I only have one monitor. I don't have all those monitors that are fancy and all over my office. So in any event, those will be entered into evidence at this time. And Ms. Golden, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Cottridge, so SG remains at the same placement he was in the last quarter, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and how is he doing there?
Overall, SG is doing okay. I mean, he always has different behavioral concerns and mental health concerns that are being addressed.
Let me just stop you there with the mental
Yep.
health concerns. How are those being addressed?
Yeah, so he has therapy that he goes to every week. He also is participating in occupational therapy for a period of time just to assist him in body regulation and being able to kind of manage his own emotions and his body. He also has medication reviews. Those usually are every several months, usually every 2 to 3 months, and continues to take his psychotropic medication. He also has
Let me just stop
Sorry,
you there. Has there
Yep.
been any change in his medication?
There has not recently been any changes.
Okay. And is EFC involved?
Yes, that's what I was going to add. He also continues to receive EFC, which is Enhanced Foster Care Services. Through that, he has a behavioral specialist and a specific case manager to help with mental health.
And he's going to counseling through, it's called Functional Kids, is that correct?
That is correct.
And do you know why we don't have any reports from either that place or EFC?
Yeah, so I asked Ms. Hanson in regards to Functional Kids. She had told me that she asked them multiple times for a report and has not yet received it. So we'll continue to follow up to ensure we get one for the next court hearing or several. And then in regards to EFC, I'm not sure, but I'll follow up.
Okay, can you contact my office if you're not getting those so I can try and subpoena them so we all have those reports?
Yes, of course.
Is he making progress in therapy?
He is making progress, yes. The therapist reports that he's been very engaged in therapy, very open. So it's been going well overall. It sounds like he has a good rapport with his therapist.
And they seem, are they working on, because I know historically he has some aggressive behaviors, including some, not just towards people, but objects too, correct? Has that
Correct.
Are they addressing that as well?
Yes, they are addressing those concerns. And I will say those have gotten significantly better this reporting period. What we're having more issues with is his sleep. He just struggles to go to sleep and to stay asleep. So that's been, I would say, one of the bigger concerns this reporting period. But yes, those behaviors are addressed in therapy.
And when you say goes to sleep, is he still taking melatonin?
Yes, he is.
And that's not working?
It appears that it has not been working, but that continues to be discussed with both the psychiatrist and his doctor.
Okay, and he has his own room, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so is he sleeping in his room at night?
Yes, he goes to bed in his room. The caregiver reports he often comes out and goes into her room throughout the night.
But he's not sleeping in the room with her though, is he?
Sometimes he'll like climb into bed with her. That's just something that he does sometimes, but no, he has his own room and that's where he sleeps.
Do you believe that that's appropriate for him to be climbing into bed with his caregiver?
I mean, he's a kid. I know some kids do that. So we continue to encourage the caregiver when he does that to move him back to his bed. I know at his previous placement with the relative caregiver, he would do that and she would just leave a little mat next to her bed because he feels comfortable being next to an adult. So we can also encourage that if that's better, if he continues to go into her room.
Okay, and then as far as, let's talk about physical health. So he still has this heart condition that's pretty serious, correct?
Correct.
And I know there was, it looked like there were some tests that were supposed to be done, but I think he had RSV and maybe COVID that it postponed those.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Did he actually have that test? Because I think it was a stress test or something that needed to be done. Is that correct?
That is correct. I believe he did have the stress test. I don't have the results from that, but I believe everything went well.
Okay, and has his mother been invited to these appointments?
Yes, so she was invited to all of them. I know that in December, when we had to cancel it several times due to illness, we had a bus set up for her to come to those appointments. So we'll continue to invite her to all of his medical appointments and encourage her to come to those.
Okay, I thought she had been to an appointment by Zoom. Is that correct?
Yes. If she can't physically be at an appointment, we always encourage her to attend via Zoom.
Okay, so what's going on with the heart condition? Is there a follow-up appointment set up?
Yes, I believe there is a follow-up appointment, and I want to say it's in March.
Okay, and are they still looking at surgery, or is that just being monitored again?
That's being monitored at this time. I know that was a discussion, and so I think they're going to talk more about that at his next appointment.
Okay, so let's go back to where he's currently staying. Are they utilizing respite?
Every once in a while. I know that he has a good support system. There's a teacher at school who has been really supportive of him that he's gone to a few times. I don't think that he's been at respite recently, but I know that they do utilize respite when needed.
Okay, and let's see, as far as school, how is he doing in school?
Yeah, overall in school, SG has been doing really well. He continues to have an IEP in place and supports in school. The teachers report no concerns in the classroom, which is a really, really good positive report. And he's on track educationally.
And that's a change, correct? Because he did have a lot of behavioral issues in school.
Yes, school used to be a huge issue for him with behaviors, and that has significantly gotten better.
And what about the behavioral issues in the home? Are those increasing? Are those lessening? What's going on with that?
I would say it ebbs and flows. I know in December he was sick quite a bit, and so there weren't really a lot of behavioral concerns because he wasn't feeling very good. The beginning of the year, so the beginning of this month, I know that there was some behavioral concerns reported by the caregiver that were increasing. So I would say it ebbs and flows.
Okay, and are you letting Miss Clark know? I guess maybe it's Miss Clark work.
Here's where mom's role becomes crucial. The agency wants more hands on parenting, but most visits remain virtual.
Are you letting her know what's going on with him as far as his behaviors?
Yeah, we try to keep Miss Clark very informed with SG. I know that was kind of a focus we had over this last reporting period, is how we can include her more and how she can be included more in his appointments, his day-to-day, calling therapists, that sort of thing, just because SG does have such significant behaviors. And we would love to see her doing some more of that hands-on parenting. So we'll continue to keep her in the loop with that.
And let's talk about the parentings. I think we've covered almost everything on SG, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so let's talk about Miss Clark Workman. Okay, so
yeah.
As far as parenting time, what's being set up for parenting time?
Yeah, so she's offered weekly in-person visits. She attends most of those virtual. I would say December was tough because SG was sick. I know we had several in person that were scheduled, and I want to say she was only able to attend one. And then this month so far, one of them was canceled due to the weather, and I know she has one coming this coming week.
Isn't there one scheduled, I think, tomorrow?
Yeah, I believe it's tomorrow. Yeah, yep.
Do you know what schedules occur?
I'm so sorry. I don't know. I don't know the exact time.
Okay.
I want to say it's in the afternoon.
Okay, so how long does she have parenting time with him when she comes in?
Yeah, so it varies. What we were really trying to do this reporting period is include her in more of his services and then do a visit either before or after. So it just depends on kind of what SG has going on. At least an hour or 2 hours is what's usually offered.
And are these supervised visits or are they unsupervised visits?
They've been monitored. Miss Hansen has brought him to SG, to Miss Clark on multiple occasions. So obviously Miss Hansen is there for those. And then I know last month Miss Clark did come to Grand Rapids to have a visit that went really well. We would love to expand those visits and do more. However, I think that we need to see more consistency in regards to attending those in-person visits.
Can we look at, though, when she does come in person, is there a need for supervised parenting time, or can she like take them to, you know, they have like McDonald's, those playgrounds, indoor playgrounds, or?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we talked about that. I think one of the concerns is SG's behaviors and just ensuring that Ms. Clark has the tools to be able to manage those. We talked about starting some unsupervised this last reporting period if we could increase those in-person visits. However, she's still only seeing him about once a month. So that would be our only concern, is seeing kind of an increase in those in-person visits and moving towards unsupervised.
Okay, but like you said, last month he was sick, so that would have made it difficult for her to come in.
Correct.
Okay, so you're looking at expanding those visits,
yes.
Increasing unsupervised visits. Okay. So,
yes, and what Ms. Hansen and I talked about a few weeks ago is he has therapy every Thursday, and Ms. Hansen brings him to those appointments. We decided we're going to see if that works for Ms. Clark's schedule to just be here every Thursday. That way she can help go with him to therapy, sit in the waiting room, talk to the therapist, and then do the visit afterwards. We're really hoping that that helps make it more consistent and having a specific day every week. Because what we're realizing is when we just say to Ms. Clark, hey, you have weekly visits, let us know when works, is when there's that inconsistency and when we end up having to offer mostly virtual.
Okay, and but does Ms. Clark Workman have any concerns about having him unsupervised with his behaviors? Has she ever?
No.
Okay.
No, she has not.
Okay, so we can look at that. We're gonna do.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
And so let's talk about her treatment plan. So substance use was the biggest concern in this case, right?
Correct.
And so how much sobriety do we believe she has at this point?
Yeah, so Ms. Clark continues just to test positive for marijuana. So it's not the harder substances that she had previously been using, which is a huge strength for her. I know that she's reported using marijuana to cope. We've really encouraged her to cease use because she doesn't have a medical marijuana card, and to identify alternative ways of coping. But at this point, we've only been doing the once a month drug screening. We're really hoping to increase those this reporting period now that she's back in the counseling that she was previously in when she got discharged.
Let me stop you there a minute real quick. So THC is legal, even though, I mean, alcohol is legal, and I know typically you don't want the parents to use during a case like this, but if there's a safety plan in place, is that still a concern? If it's
so we've talked about that. Yeah, so I think we're open to whatever, you know, the court deems appropriate. I think one of my concerns is SG's behaviors and just being able to manage those as best she can if she's under the influence. So a safety plan could be helpful in that. I would definitely recommend that, and we've definitely talked that through with Ms. Clark, especially if we were to start some unsupervised visits. When we talked to her therapist way back when she had therapy this summer, the therapist had some concerns with her using marijuana just because of her addiction to substances. So that's another area that we just continue to encourage sobriety, but we'll continue to discuss.
And then let me just stop you there. So the way she is making money is she donates blood, correct?
Correct.
plasma, and I think she gets paid for it, and
Yep.
she has to be tested though, drug tested before she donates. Is that correct?
You know what? I actually don't know that. If she does, then and has results from those, that would be really helpful for us to have.
Okay, because I know it's listed in the report that that's what's happening. So can we make sure we get those screens? Because, that way it ensures,
Yeah.
we're not she's
Yep.
used, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And then you screen her when she comes in, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and the only screens have been THC positive, nothing else.
That is correct.
And
Yes.
I think her drug of choice, I think it was meth, I believe, and
Correct.
or something, and that has not shown up anywhere.
No,
Correct?
it has not.
Okay, so that's extremely positive.
It is very positive. Yes.
Okay, and let's talk about income. So we know she's donating. I think she was working, but no longer working. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's just the giving plasma at this time.
But she's applied for Social Security disability, I think for mental health as well as physical. Is that correct?
That is my understanding. I think it's still pending at this time.
Okay, so Ms. Hanson can check with her to see what's going on with that, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, and so as far as employment, is it that because of her disabilities, it's hard for her to work and that's why she's not working? Do we know, or do we know why she doesn't have a job at this point?
I'm not exactly sure because she has had a job throughout this case. It's been very inconsistent. She'll get a job, have it for a little while, and then no longer be employed. So I don't know exactly the reason why. I think there are some physical health issues that we've talked about in the past. So I think that has to do with it as well.
Okay, so Ms. Hanson again can check with her on that to find out what's going on. Okay.
Correct.
And then as far as housing, the worker's been out to the home?
Yes, Ms. Hanson's been out to the home a few times. She continues to reside with one of her good friends. We have done background checks. That person is appropriate. And so at this time, it seems like a stable housing.
And so there's no concerns with it. It's completely appropriate.
That is correct.
And would SG have his own room if he were to be placed there?
I want to say there is a bedroom. Correct. Yes.
Okay. And as far as mental health, I know that was an issue in the past, and she had a psychological done a long time ago. I think it's been 3 years or almost 3 years, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I think she was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and some anxiety, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Nothing else though. No other diagnosis.
Correct. We did talk with Ms. Clark. I think it was about a month or two ago in regards to doing an updated psychological evaluation. We did move forward with getting funding approved for that. However, she recently, within the past 3 to 4 weeks, informed us that she has to do a psychological evaluation anyway through her primary care physician. So we're just going to allow her to move forward with that and kind of see what those results show, and if there's any other recommendations we can do to help.
And as far as emotional stability though, has there been any concerns with your interaction with her?
No, Ms. Clark is very appropriate in her communication with both Ms. Hanson and myself. I know we've had a few different meetings over this last reporting period. Like I stated, I would say my biggest concern is seeing her get more involved and kind of more of that hands-on parenting with SG this reporting period.
And if we do some unsupervised parenting time, that will allow for that to happen. Is that correct?
I would think so. Yes.
Okay. And what is going back to substance use or substance abuse? Is she attending AA or NA meetings to maintain?
When I talked with her several months ago, she was. I don't think that she shows Ms. Hanson proof, but she reports that she is attending. And then she also continues to have a recovery coach that she meets, I think, often with.
Has anyone talked to her recovery coach?
So that's one significant barrier that Ms. Hanson has with her current, I think it's called Winnedette counseling or something like that. They will not talk to us, even though we have a release signed. It's been very, very difficult to get any communication with them. I know Ms. Hanson's called on many occasions. They only will speak with our agency if Ms. Clark is either at their office or also on the phone. So I don't know if they would accept it if a court order would show like, hey, we need communication.
Then attention shifts toward Dad, who remains incarcerated while awaiting trial and participating in limited substance use counseling behind bars.
Communication with them, because that has definitely been a significant barrier. She's been on a wait list for months for a therapist, and we don't know why, because they're not communicating with us.
Well, and it sounds like there's some insurance issues too that for some reason, she'd have to pay out of pocket.
Yeah, well, Miss Hansen had looked into other therapies because she's been on this wait list for so long at this place that she had previously been in before getting unsuccessfully discharged. And that's what we're running into is a lot of insurance issues with places out where she's residing.
Can Miss Hansen, talk to Miss Clark Workman and see if she can obtain just some kind of letter from this place, this recovery coach, that she's, just a letter indicating that she's been meeting with this person or, reaches out.
Yeah, I think Ms. Hansen has asked for that, so we'll continue to ask for it. Anything at this point would be really helpful to show what she's doing and how that's going.
Okay, and Miss Clark Workman is not in a relationship, is that correct?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay. Is there anything else about her before we go on to the father?
I don't believe so.
Okay, and Mr. Griffin is still incarcerated at the jail, correct?
That's
Jail?
correct, yes.
I think he's awaiting a trial. He's got some charges pending and he's awaiting a trial or something. Is that correct?
That is correct. I want to say the trials got pushed back, but I think it's sometime this spring.
Correct.
Okay, and it sounds like he's able to do some type of substance abuse counseling while incarcerated, and he's been taking advantage of that. Is that correct?
That's correct. Ms. Hansen has been able to verify that he's been meeting with like a chaplain to address his substance use, and she also gives him monthly homework to work on while he's incarcerated.
Okay, and I'm trying to remember if he had a psychological. I don't believe he had a psychological done, correct?
He was supposed to, and he never completed it.
Can we do that while he's incarcerated?
I can follow up and find out. I think we'd have to re-get funding approved, but we can work on that.
Okay, and his barriers were substance use. That was a barrier, correct? As
Correct.
well? Okay.
Correct.
And is Miss Hansen, she's going to continue to meet with him while he's incarcerated?
Correct. She's gone out every month.
And does she give him updates on how SG is doing and what's going on with his medical and physical health?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, does she give him assignments while he's incarcerated?
Yeah, she's been giving him homework every month to address his barriers.
And has he returned that homework?
I don't believe he has returned all of them. I think maybe she got one this reporting period, if I recall.
Okay. Is there anything else about any family members, either Mr. Griffin or Miss Clark Workman or SG, you'd like to advise the court?
I don't believe so, not at this time. I will just add that we continue to work with the caregiver on her licensing process. It's been very slow. It's been going very slow, which is unfortunate. So we're continuing to push that this reporting period.
And why is it going slow? What's the holdup?
Yeah, the caregiver needs to participate in trainings. And I know that over the last reporting period, there was a lot going on with sickness in their home and just some the holidays, that type of thing. And so we've made it pretty clear that this reporting period, we need to finish that process. So that's going to be our goal.
And right now, I know the goal is guardianship, but are we looking at possibly changing the goal, looking at reunification with Miss Clark Workman, and she continues on the path that she's currently on?
Yeah, even though the goal is guardianship, we've made it very clear to Ms. Clark. We can always change that. I think, like I've said many times, I think we just need to see a lot more hands-on from Ms. Clark in regards to how she can manage SG's behaviors and come more than once a month to see him. Him traveling to her is exhausting for him, and so we're still open to doing that about once a month, but we think it's pretty fair to ask Ms. Clark to come to Grand Rapids at least 2 to 3 times a month to see SG, and we'll continue to bring him kind of halfway or to her once a month, but just hoping to increase those because it's hard to get a gauge on her parenting when we're seeing it for 20 minutes on a virtual call.
But would you also agree, though, if there are in person, that we expand those so we can see how she does for a longer period of time rather than just like an hour?
Yes, and hoping to get her more involved in his services when she's in Grand Rapids.
Okay. So are you also recommending that the next hearing be a permanency planning hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't believe so. Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, Ms. Benedict.
Thank you. So when we met in October, we had no reports for EFC, and now we have functional kids involved. We still have no reports. What is the holdup? They've been involved now for a while. We should have reports.
Yeah, like I stated, I know Ms. Hanson has asked for reports from functional kids, so we will definitely follow up, and I will let Ms. Golden know if we don't have it in the next month or two, so she can subpoena
Month
those.
or two? We need
And
reports now.
and I will
Month.
reserve the right to have those reports turned over and put them in an order if necessary.
Thank you.
And it's not just functional kids, the EFC. We don't have anything from them either. I mean, we get reports every month, typically for EFC cases. I don't have anything on this case.
Yeah, I'm surprised about EFC. I'll follow up with them today.
I mean, to be honest, we just got your reports on Thursday and Friday for this hearing. As for you keep saying that Ms. Clark needs to be more involved, isn't it fair to say that she has tried to Zoom in for doctor's appointments that were changed, so she couldn't be here, and she has tried to Zoom in and she couldn't because of the setting in the doctor's office?
Yeah, that wasn't a situation where they didn't have good service, and Ms. Hanson had tried to call her in, correct?
And isn't it true that there have been several appointments changed over the last couple of months due to allegedly illness? And that's not Ms. Clark's fault. That's on the child or the foster or the caregiver.
I'm not blaming Ms. Clark. Yes,
Well,
those were not her control.
But your testimony keeps implying that she's the one that's not here doing things, when the reality is she's scheduled to come here, but appointments get changed, so her schedule gets changed. And that is not on her.
Correct. I'm not blaming her for the situations where SG was ill.
And that is what's happened pretty much since we were together in October.
I would say there's been about 3 weeks where he was ill.
Only 3?
It was early December, if I recall.
Okay, well, in your report, we talk about I think it was in November, November 7th, the school showed up at the caregiver's house because Beth had missed so much school. And so that would be November. And now he's sick again in December. Ms. Clark has addressed the issue with the agency regarding the child statements that he's sleeping with the caregiver every night. What is the agency doing to address that? I understand your testimony is different than what the information has been exchanged between Ms. Hanson and Ms. Clark.
Flashback.
Okay, so is he sleeping in his room at night?
Yes, he goes to bed in his room. The caregiver reports he often comes out and goes into her room throughout the night.
But he's not sleeping in the room with her though, is he?
Sometimes he'll
This is where mom's progress becomes impossible to ignore. Her attorney establishes that the substances originally causing concern have stayed absent for well over a year.
climb into bed with her. That's just something that he does sometimes, but no, he has his own room and that's where he sleeps.
End of flashback.
Yeah, like I stated, my understanding is he goes to bed in his own bed and sometimes almost every night goes into the caregiver's room. So what we've encouraged her to do is to move him back into his bed. And like I stated, I know that the old caregiver used to have a little cot that she would have next to her bed, if that was more comforting to him to lay there, if he was refusing to go back to his bed. So we'll continue to work with her on that.
Isn't it inappropriate for a child of this age to every night be going into the caregiver's room and sleeping?
I can't speak to what, at this point, it sounds like that's what's comforting to him. We'll continue to encourage her to move him right back to his bed.
You testified that the caregiver used respite sometimes. My recollection from reading the report and my recollection from a prior meeting with the agency is the caregiver was using respite significantly, because I specifically asked the agency why my client couldn't be a respite caregiver when the child's sent away for a weekend someplace.
Yeah, like I stated, it's my understanding that they use it when they need it. I think it's only been 2 or 3 times this reporting period. So within a 3-month period, a couple of weekends.
2 or 3 times. Has he been sick during those times?
No,
So 2 or 3 times during the times he's not been sick, but we know he was sick in October, November, and December for large stretches of time.
correct.
Okay. At a prior meeting with the agency, we talked about when Ms. Clark Workman is able to come to Grand Rapids, doing more visits and maybe doing some overnights with her at the hotel, yet none of those have happened yet.
That's correct. Like I stated, we were really hoping to see those increase to at least every week so we could get a better gauge of her hands-on parenting with SG and then transition into those. And like we've talked about, I'm not blaming her for the times that he was sick, but since our meeting, she's only, I think, been to 3 or 4 in-person visits. So it's just been really hard. Actually, I think only 2 or 3 because of the weather this past week.
The
So
weather and the
after,
child being sick.
and the child being sick, correct.
Okay, all right. So let's, at this point, I mean, this child came into care because of things with Mr. Griffin, but Ms. Clark Workman's issues were substance use, and I think it was meth
Correct.
and cocaine.
Correct.
Ms. Clark has not tested positive for either of those substances now for well over a year, correct?
Correct.
Ms. Clark Workman also had some criminal issues. Those have long been resolved, and there's not been any criminal activities for well over a year, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Clark Workman had housing issues. Well, she was living with a relative. That housing then wasn't appropriate for her. But she has now had appropriate housing with a supportive person for well over a year, correct?
That is correct.
So she has rectified the issues that were on her barriers at the start of this case.
So since Ms. Clark redacted her non-participation agreement, she has done well. I mean, like I stated, this past summer, she was unsuccessfully discharged from therapy because of her lack of attendance. But otherwise, yes, she has. She's been only positive for marijuana. Sorry.
Wasn't part of the attendance issues due to trying to accommodate work that you guys were requiring her to do, and the agency and the counseling place wasn't letting her do that, correct? There was some issues with that.
There was a work conflict. That was what she reported.
And when you indicated that you didn't know why Ms. Clark wasn't working or didn't know any of the specifics of that, yet at the last hearing, there was testimony as to we didn't want her to really be looking for work because we wanted the focus to be on return to her or getting her involved here, but then has been sick most of the time since then.
I do want to add, though, there have been many weeks where she's done the virtual visits and he's been healthy that she could have come to her in-person visits. So I know
those many weeks. How many are those many weeks?
It was around like end of December timeframe. There was a few in November that he was not sick for, and then last week was the weather. But then there was the 2 weeks in early January. So I want to say
she traveled. How many times has she traveled over here
to Grand Rapids in the last 3 months?
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think,
yeah.
I don't have that. I think it's been 2 times, maybe 3.
Okay. And then you also were meeting at a halfway place for like a day on the weekend. And how many of those have occurred?
I think that was one that got changed in December, and I think one happened in November. And then I don't know tomorrow what Miss Hansen's plan is, if that's meeting or if that's Miss Clark coming here. I'm not sure.
So were the ones in November and December changed because the child was sick?
The December one. So the agreement is that Miss Clark comes 3 times a month and we go 1 time a month to her.
And when the child's sick, she's not been able to come over because there's no point in coming over. Okay. So again, she has rectified the issues that the barriers she had regarding this child. In that we're not having substance issues for any illegal or unprescribed drugs. Marijuana is a legal drug.
She's made significant progress, correct. And like I stated,
And
I'm really
she has,
hoping.
I just need you to answer my questions. You keep wanting to add all the other dialogue. Just answer my questions, okay? I'm not trying to be rude.
Yep.
But we're already well into this here, late starting because you guys didn't join. Okay. So at this point, she has the housing is addressed, substance is addressed, and you've even testified she's been appropriate with the agency. We're not seeing any mental health concerns.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm at a loss. Why are we not recommending a dual order?
Like I stated, SG has some pretty significant mental health and behavioral needs. And so my hope is we can see her be more involved. It's hard to gauge her parenting and how she can parent him and if she can handle those things and be involved in his services and care for his mental health if it's only one time a month that we're seeing her.
Yeah, we have a foster provider who's not doing what they need to complete the licensing, is allowing the child to sleep in their room virtually every night, and hasn't allegedly returned Ms. Golden's contacts with her. And so that's appropriate that we're having those roadblocks from the foster agency when we have a parent that's doing everything that you've asked her to do. You view that foster parent is appropriate?
The foster parent has been caring for SG's needs appropriately. We have no safety concerns.
Okay.
The licensing process delay is recent.
Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kosurik.
Thank you. Ms. Cottridge, can you update the court on progress of Mr. Griffin, who I understand currently is incarcerated and has been incarcerated throughout probably most of these proceedings?
Yes, sir. Yeah, like I stated, Ms. Hansen visits him every month. He engages in appropriate conversation with her. He asks questions. She provides him with homework every month. He hasn't done all of it. I know he's maybe done one in the past several months. He also is engaged with some services, substance use services through Kent County Jail.
Do you know anything recent about his upcoming trial? I see in your update or the addendum, the worker was scheduled to meet with him on 1/19 of this year.
Yeah, I don't know of any updates. I believe Ms. Hansen did meet with him on Friday. And I want to say his criminal trial is coming up in, I want to say it's March. I know it's this coming spring.
So he's having conversation with the agency. He's appropriate. Is there any reason why your recommendation is to suspend his parenting times instead of allowing him at least some limited letter contact with his son?
Yeah, that's due to how long it was that he was not participating. He had signed a non-participation agreement and was not attending any visits, and it was significantly impacting SG and his behaviors. There was a period of time where he would sporadically pop back up and visit him and then leave for a longer period of time, and that was just really, really impacting him. I would be open to him sending him letters and us providing that to SG's therapist to kind of go over with SG. If the court's okay with that, I'm totally fine with that.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right. Any further witnesses, Ms. Golden?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses, Ms. Benedict?
The argument gets sharper. Counsel says distance and agency logistics should not block progress, especially while respite care continues elsewhere.
Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kosurik.
No, thank you.
Okie dokie. In that case, closing statements, Ms. Golden.
Your Honor, I agree with the recommendations. I think we definitely need a permanency planning hearing for the next one. This child's been in care almost 3 years now, and this guardianship isn't happening. I'm not sure why. I'm a little concerned because I left a message. I tried to call the number, it wasn't working, or it said it wasn't accepting calls, so I texted it, left messages so that I could see my client, and I haven't been able to. So I guess I could ask Miss Clark Workman when she's visiting tomorrow. So if it's in town, I could go watch the visit because I really need to see my client. I haven't had concerns about this home in the past. This thing about him sleeping in her room is news to me, which is concerning. But again, I would ask the worker to speak to the therapist about it because this kid has a lot of behavioral issues, serious behavioral issues. And I want the therapist to address this because I think they're the best person to talk about this and to see whether it's appropriate or not. I'm a little concerned about it as well, that it may not be appropriate. I don't know. So, but I would urge the agency to have Ms. Clark Workman have some of these unsupervised parenting time, because I think this case is moving towards that direction of reunification, and we need her to have him for a longer period of time to see how she does and what assistance she might need if she's having any issues. All the visits that I think have occurred were very appropriate. She brought little things for them to do together, and they seem to be very bonded together. So I would ask the next hearing to be a PPH, and I agree with the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Benedict.
Well, Your Honor, today is scheduled as a PPH, and quite
Correct.
frankly, I'm asking the court to consider a dual order. That doesn't mean the child is dropped on my client's lap tomorrow. That's not what I'm even suggesting. But I'm asking the court for a dual order for a return. My client has been clean of the illegal drugs that she was seriously involved in at the start of this case. She has been clean now for well over a year. She has maintained housing for well over a year. I get that it's on the east side of the state, but that's where she is safe, where she doesn't have the same temptation she has when she's over on this side of the state. And so I can't fault her for that. I mean, she moved where she needed to for her child, to better herself so that she can then have her child with her. And we've had testimony on that previously, Your Honor. We have no concerns really with her interactions with the child. Granted, there's been some bumps in the road in the visits. That's not her fault. It's not her fault that this child has been sick for the better part of this school year. We had testimony at the last hearing as to how sick he was. We have in the report about the school showing up at the door on November 7th to try to pick up the child to take him to school because the school was concerned whether he's really sick or just not going. Then we hear he was sick for a few weeks in December. I don't know what more you want my client to do other than be here when he's healthy and she can. But in my opinion, she has stepped up. She's in an entirely different place than she was before. Your Honor, and that testimony was provided at the last hearing. She's in an entirely different place in her life, and she's maintaining an appropriate lifestyle that is good for her and would be good for the child. We need to do more now to reunify. She's done everything we've asked her to. I get there's a barrier because of the distance. That barrier is overcomable, but it's not, that's partly on the agency to make that happen as well. And I would, Your Honor, as for the work, we've previously had testimony about the SSI and her working to get benefits in that way. And at the last hearing, the agency said, we're not focused on her getting a job. We're focused on her and the child. We've had testimony before about the use of respite. Today, we hear that they've used respite 2 or 3 times in the last reporting period. At the same time, we're hearing the child was sick. My account would be probably 5 or 6 weeks out of the last reporting period. So 2 or 3 times that we used respite is about every week that the child was healthy. Let's use my client for respite. Let's let him go to her place on a weekend. There's no reason for that. The issue with the child sleeping with the caregiver was brought to the agency's attention, I'm aware of, in early November. And here we are today with that issue still outstanding. Your Honor, I ask for the court to consider a dual order to return this child And again, I'm not asking that the child be dropped there right now, but I'm asking that the steps be started so that this child can be returned home, hopefully before the next hearing. If the court is not inclined to do that, then I would ask that we not have a hearing, we not wait as long as 90 days for another hearing. I think that the longer we keep delaying this case, the harder it is for the child and for everybody else. And I'm not hearing, maybe this foster home is appropriate, but it doesn't sound like they're really following through to make sure everything is taken care of. If they're not following through with the GAL, they're not following through with licensing. There's just red flags I see there, Your Honor. So I would ask that, again, that the court consider a dual order today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kosarik.
Thank you, Your Honor. Not having input from my client, I will simply take no positions on my client's recommendation, besides the fact that I think some limited letter contact would be appropriate if it goes through a therapist. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little concerned because the last hearing we had was a permanency planning hearing. This hearing we're having is a permanency planning hearing. And I think that's all because it's been such a delay on the guardianship. There's been no closure for this young man. And that opens a door that I don't think was open before, which means I'm going to grant a dual order because those both need to be concentrated on. I need to know which.
The argument gets sharper. Counsel says distance and agency logistics should not block progress, especially while respite care continues elsewhere.
Avenue is the appropriate avenue because reunification may be the appropriate thing at this time. The mother has addressed all of her issues. So we may have to look closer at that. So I'm going to grant the dual order. At this point, the next hearing will be just in case, because I don't want to wait 90 days on a dual order to see if mother's doing well, great. We may switch the goal completely. If mother's not doing well and there's indicia of that, we may go back to the former goal. So we'll see how this goes. I'm not as concerned about the sleeping in the same room with the caregiver as everyone else is, because the testimony I heard is the child has its own separate cot in the room.
It was in the prior caregiver's home.
Okay, I apologize. Then I am concerned. Because sometimes what will happen is the child is terrified and needs a safe place to stay for the night, and then can be moved back to the other room while they're asleep. Been there, done that on many an occasion. And as long as they had a separate bed to sleep in, that's great. But if they're sleeping in the same bed, then the court does have concerns. I'm sorry, I didn't realize, I guess when I was hearing the testimony, I didn't realize that was the former caregiver, not the current caregiver. But in any event, I've got more concerns about the fact that this ain't done, that there's been no closure for this young man. And that needs to be done. At this time, the agency should not initiate proceedings to terminate. Reasonable efforts for reunification should be continued. Progress was made by Kayla Clark. Progress was not made by Mr. Griffin. The needs of the child can be helped in a foster care. I'm going to have to ask how I do this because I have not done a dual order but once in the past 6 years. So I need to make sure I'm clicking this off right. Under reasonable efforts, do I now put return to parent and legal guardianship as both? Or do I place this elsewhere?
Well, I think the dual order is return to parent or keep in foster care. A concurrent plan is guardianship.
Okay,
But the
yeah, I know, and I'm asking if this is the appropriate place to check it off, because what I'll do is reasonable efforts will be made to finalize the court-approved permanency plan for return of the parent of the child to the parent and for legal guardianship, because that gives you both as the proper permanency planning goals.
What number is that? What number are you talking about?
17.
Oh, okay.
That's where I changed the goal on most PPHs.
Yeah, right.
But if it's a dual goal, now you're hitting territory that I'm unfamiliar enough with to go. I mean, I check these off as we do the hearings, which drives downstairs crazy when they make the orders, because every once in a while I screw up and don't hit the right checkoff button. But I think that's the correct place to do that, because then you have the dual goal of reunification and guardianship, depending upon how this goes.
So you would check off A is what you're saying and C.
A and C.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. Yeah.
I think that's where I do it. I'm just questioning. I was going to go off the record with you guys and do that, but I figured I'm here now. We got to make this order. So in any event, take care of yourselves and
Your Honor,
thank you all. Yes, Mr. Kosorek.
are you comfortable with allowing letter contact if otherwise appropriate by the therapist?
I would think that would fall under supervised because I've ordered the
Correct.
to be supervised. So it's got to
Thank
be
you.
through the therapist. Yes.
All right.
Because there's at least a gatekeeper there. All righty.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
luck to everybody. Nice to see you all. Stay
Thank
safe.
you, Your Honor.
Try
Have
to
a good
stay.
day.
Then the judge drops the turning point. The guardianship delay has opened another door, and reunification may now be appropriate. And there it is, guys. The judge grants a dual goal of reunification and guardianship, recognizing Mom's progress while demanding closer review. Termination proceedings will not begin, reunification efforts continue, and this long-running case suddenly takes a dramatically different direction.